speaker today is Reverend. Start again. Good morning. Reverend Dr. Michelle Wadleigh is our speaker today. Her motto is Live Life Gloriously. Reverend Dr. Michelle Wadleigh is an inspiring and exciting coach, master teacher, speaker, workshop and retreat facilitator, and prayer practitioner. She is a co-founder of Planned Happiness Institute and the PHI Coaching Academy. Michelle founded the Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, 22 years ago. She has been a coach for over 20 years as a graduate of IPEC Coaching Institute. Michelle is an incredibly unique and practical teacher who is passionate about you mastering a fully expressed life. She is grounded in solid metaphysical principles and practices and brings to her teaching a wide open heart along with a sense of humor, joyfully demonstrated through her laughter and her engaging style. Her focus as a teacher is empowering others with their own spiritual and emotional liberation through the application of practical tools and methods, including the science of mind. She is a straight shooter who calls things as she sees them while using her easygoing personal style. Michelle brings a wealth of experience from having helped thousands of people to experience great transformation in their lives. Michelle has spent years developing her courses in forgiveness and shadow work. She also has written Forgiveness, A Path, A Promise, A Way of Life, and her Shadow Work, A Spiritual Path to Healing Integration. She is also the author of Prosperous Me, 40 Days to Freedom, A Lenten Practice for the Modern Mind, and So It Is. She has also created many inspiring recordings. Here is Michelle, Dr. Michelle.
Good morning. Thank you, Linda. Thank you. And thank you, Reverend Marianne, for having me. It's fun because I know almost nothing about your community. So it's kind of fun to really be in your living rooms, in all your living rooms and as a brand new person. So I'm glad to be here. I do have a quick question. That pilot, there was just a pilot. Did you see that on the screen a few minutes ago? Was that the person, Marianne? Because I think I know him. I met him.
That's Will. He's one of our practitioners.
Oh,
yes, and he's from Pittsburgh, but he lives either in Dallas, but because that's where he's stationed out of. But
oh, that's so funny. I think I know him, but anyway,
he goes to a lot of different centers. And since I'm talking, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take much of your time, but Michelle is the lead of the Region 11 ministers, so we all get together and talk about our churches. But I met her last year at Asilomar and heard her speak, and just yes, she's a sharpshooter, straight shooter. I love her. So here's back to Michelle. Take it away.
Thank you. Just got distracted by thinking, is that person going to actually fly and listen? So we don't want people to even drive and listen. So all right, I'm glad he left. But it's fun talking to you today. Of course, this is part of the theme of the global theme of the organization, Colorful to the Core. And I like the idea of speaking about this because one of the things that has made me in this world of ministry is me embracing all of my tendencies. Without you being you, without me being me, and not the black and white gray shades of gray version of us, but the all of us, the world would be a pretty boring place. The total of you, the total of who you are, is what makes these communities and this world an interesting place to live in. If you ever go into, if you're anybody here who's a hiker, when you go into the woods, if it's an what do they call it? Oh my gosh, I forget the term of it. there is no forest where all the trees are the same. Because if they were, it wouldn't survive. It will never be it could never be a healthy forest. In order for it to be healthy, we have to have a sense of diversity even within the forest. I mean, for me in my world, I want to meet people I don't know. I want to be around people whose language I don't even speak. I want to, for me, that's what's colorful. I want to be in a world where I am surrounded by people I don't always know. Not that when I say be around, I mean be influenced by, be inspired by. I was telling some of the people before when we got on that I was at a wedding on Friday, and the father of the bride is Cuban, and all of his Cuban family came up. They live in Florida now and in Puerto Rico. And they all came in. And what was beautiful was that at one point on the dance floor, the youngest baby, which was my granddaughter, was 3 years old, and the eldest man there, who happened to be my ex-husband, was 80, and all the ages in between. And I was fascinated because everybody was singing crazy out loud the words to these songs. And I've never seen a wedding quite where the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds and the 50-year-olds and the 60-year-olds and the 80-year-olds were on the dance floor at the same time. I was so happy. I was like delirious just because of the beautiful, colorful interaction of all of these unique people. And we can have that experience, but in order to have the experience, we have to move inside and literally embrace the authentic nature of who we are. I mean, I've had to learn. I'm not as educated as many of my colleagues. I mean, now if I wanted to go into ministry, I wouldn't be allowed because I don't even have a BA. I know you're wondering, how did I get a doctorate? That's for 21, 22 years of service and the books I've written and everything else. But I had to become okay about what I used to think of was my limitations. I had to become okay about the parts of me that some might look at as wounded. We all have those parts. We're not who we are despite those parts. We are who we are because of those parts. Right? Do you get that? Because it's those things that make you unique, that make you colorful. And maybe we do want to transcend the impact of many of them. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't want to be limited to the pain and the trauma and all those things. So we can heal them, but not to hide them. That's the difference. Not to hide the fact. I mean, no, I'm a born and bred Jersey girl. My moniker everywhere is Rev Jersey Girl. And, that's who I am. And I cuss like a truck driver. And for a minister, I have, I'm not like most. I love football and I love revenge movies. I mean, I do. Now I know why I do. I know the psychology of why I do, but it wasn't until I was able to start getting out loud about who I was that I could relax about it. Because I wish this happened earlier in my life, but in the 60s, you really stopped caring about what people think. You just don't care. And if I could give the youngest people in this room that gift, I'd give it to you now. Stop caring about what anybody thinks. And I think a lot of our the younger citizens now of this country are grabbing hold of that. I think there's a little feistiness that comes with it, but that's fine. But the qualities that I bring were not born out of training, or not born out of perfection, and probably neither of yours. They're born out of me accepting myself, and they will be born out of you accepting yourself as you are and as you are not. because I will never be 5'10" and a blonde. So it's good for me to go, okay, I'm not that. So I'm going to love this version of me. And the less you and I compare ourselves to others, the more we can love ourselves. The less we compare ourselves to others, the happier we are. Because comparison is deadly. It's deadly. I can remember early in my young years, I was so jealous. I was jealous, jealous, jealous. I don't know how my first husband survived me, to be perfectly honest. And I would, I was an okay looking woman. It wasn't, I was okay. But the second someone was anywhere near me that I thought was prettier, the internal condemnation, and in science of mind, I'm going to use the S word, we should know better. And should is not a word that we embrace very much. Ernest Holmes said about uniqueness, each of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to the universal consciousness. No two people are alike, and we should not wish to be. Each one of us is an individualized spirit. Each is a unique presentation of the same mind, force, and life. I mean, think about the parts of you right now that you might be hiding. I know you all have them. I know you have them. What if you stopped hiding? What if you stopped thinking that something about you was not okay? Even when I told you that I cuss and that I like football and that I like revenge movies, what did your mind do with that? Did you find that your mind went into judgment? Because that's normal. That's normal for most of us. Not all of us. I get it. But some of us do that. But that knee jerk to find fault, or that knee jerk to assess someone as not okay, that exists because we do it to ourselves. I'm just looking at you to see if you're getting this. It is you fully loving, embracing, accepting, and celebrating the beautiful details of who you are, the stories of who you are, even the pain. Because when we practice this acceptance, we put on a new filter and we see ourselves through a new filter. And you might be totally unique and you don't do this, but I know sometimes and the habit is by far reduced from what it used to be. But I had a tendency to look back at myself and always wish I was what I was then. You know that? And so I know, but now what I've learned is 10 years from now, I'm going to wish I was this. So when do we stop that habit? When do we stop wishing we were what we were and instead just be gloriously, literally gloriously who we are? It took me years to embrace who I was despite my lack of education. But once I fully embraced it, I was able to do so without judgment. Because here's what I learned, an advantage, and I don't know, maybe there's other highly educated people in the room, since I don't know who you are, but the advantage of not being educated, let me tell you what it is, not being indoctrinated. They go together. And so I get to kind of maybe sometimes clumsily move into learning something new, but it's grabbing hold of the challenge. I mean, I have tried and failed more than most people I know, even as a minister. The problem with doing it as a minister is you do it publicly. But the fact is, it's those things that grew me. It's those things that gave me the tendency to keep going, the tenacity to embrace life, even when it was hard, even when it was really hard. It is so important. I know you've heard this 1,000 times. But like Hallmark card moments or some of the cliches in life, this is just another one of them. I beg you to look in the mirror and love yourself. Because all of the pleasure of life will be sparked from self-acceptance. All improvement, I meant to say, starts with self-approval. It starts there. Ernest Holmes also said, and this is about creative nature, we are surrounded by an infinite possibility. It is goodness, life, law, and reason. In expressing itself through us, it becomes more conscious of its own being. It passes into our conscious minds, where we reproduce it in whatever manner you choose, and it passes back again into pure subjectivity to be made manifest. So I'm a believer that we are the reflection of consciousness. I think that learning to be sometimes painfully, but purely honest with ourselves about who we are is the difference that makes the science of mind and us being metaphysicians, because that's what we are. We used to call ourselves religious scientists, but they kind of messed that up with the new name. But it is when you and I learn to be radically honest. And so what I mean by that is you look around your life and you see what's going on. And instead of thinking there's an issue outside there, we think, what am I believing? What am I holding? What am I pondering? And I know Ernest Holmes said, change your thinking, change your life. But in truth, I think it's more about change your thinking, speaking, pondering, daydreaming, change your life. Because it's all of those things. You and I are the direct result of our spoken, but also our unspoken words. That which the stories we make up about ourselves. Right? So something happens to us. Something happens in our life. And it's not what happened. It's what we make it mean. It's what we told ourselves about it. Do you get that? Do you get that distinction? What do you make your life mean? And right there, we get to see what is the filter that I'm even assessing myself through. And it's lovely to be in a space where I love even for this conversation, I'll just use this term, the lesser parts of me. Even those parts. I mean, there are sometimes I am incredibly generous, incredibly patient, and there are times I'm not. But that uniqueness, that's where we are colorful, and it's not to make ourselves wrong. That's the biggest problem. We make ourselves wrong for these things instead of just getting, this is who I am. This is who I am. Sometimes I'm kind, sometimes I'm a bitch, and both exist. And I'm sure both exist in all of you. But if you have a judgment about the other side, the bitchy side, if you have a judgment about that, you're going to hide it. You know what happens when you hide it? It goes into your shadow, and then you become inauthentic. And then we're not even meeting each other. You're presenting me the part of you that you want me to see. I want to know who you are. I don't want to know this pretend part of you. I want to know you as you. That's the truth, because that part of you is stunning. I know what to do with honesty. I don't know what to do with pretense. I know what to do with authenticity. I don't know what to do with you just trying to present yourself in the way that you think I will accept you. Can you get that? Does that make sense? That every little nook and cranny of you, all of you. I felt like there was something else I wanted to say about that, but yes, I remembered. We have addictions besides the classic addictions. There are these addictions we have that are not obvious. And I'm sorry, but you have likely twisted yourself into a pretzel because of these addictions. And it's the addiction to being nice and the addiction to being liked. Anybody find that sometimes you want to be liked so much, you say yes when you want to say no. You say okay when you don't want to do something. You agree to go somewhere when you don't want to really go. Anybody know about that? Yeah. Those are silent killers of the colorful, perfect parts of you. Because you kind of slowly, it's like if you were to put a piece of cellophane over your face, you'd see through it. But then if you put another layer and another layer and another layer, eventually you can't even see who you are, because you are covering your perfect, beautiful, authentic essence by every time you answer inauthentically. The colorful part of you is the part of you that, yeah, it's the part of you that you have spent your life trying to accept. Learning to be with who we are, it, in my mind, is the exact most important thing that we can do for ourselves. If you have children, for your children. If you have grandchildren, for your grandchildren. That when you are you, as you are, you give permission to everybody around you to also be that. Does that make sense? So, what do I want to leave you with? I want to leave you with this. Science of Mind is a beautiful teaching. It gives us the tools to live in a world of possibility, to free our full potentiality. Is very beautiful. It's very beautiful. But in order to do that, we must do it here. We must do it within. In all the classes that I teach, and especially my forgiveness and my shadow classes, we have a mantra, and I do it with all my classes. There is no other. There is no outside. And the part of that's difficult is it's very distracting. The world is very distracting. But if we can close our eyes to what we think is reality and go into this internal reality, we have options to live life in a whole different way than we've ever known. So my wish, want, hope, and dream for you is that you stop measuring yourself against anyone else, and that you fully and completely embrace all parts, all aspects, and that you love on yourself. Not in a self-serving way, I don't mean that, but that this creation that you are. it's really stunning. It's stunning. Let us treat for this together, if you will. Know with me right here, right now, that there's a power and a presence and a love. It is grand, it is glorious, it ebbs and flows and moves. It goes by many names. It is intelligence, inspiration, it is love, it is energy. It is the good and the grace of life itself. And it shows up by means of each of us right where we are, right here and right now. And as we each accept and embrace ourselves as we are and as we are not, our fully authentic self is invited to come forth, to be freed, to live a beautiful life, to live a glorious life, to live a life worth living by our standards and no one else's. Let us each learn to embrace who we are in this moment and in all moments. I am so grateful for this. So grateful. So I surrender this word to love, to law, and to the awe of life itself. And so it is.